A month ago, I sat down with Health and Human Services Secretary Bobby Kennedy at the White House and asked him if anything would change about vaccine policy under his leadership. His answer made international headlines. Everything, he said, was going to change. And yesterday, Kennedy made good on that promise with a major shakeup to federal vaccine policy. And what's going to shock people the most, I think, is that Kennedy's new policy has not already been policy for decades. We'll get into what it is. I'm Michael Knowles. It's The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Robert De Niro's son thinks that he's a woman. Not that De Niro's a woman, but that he himself, the son, is a woman. Who you looking at? You looking at me? You looking at De Niro's son? And there's nobody else here. So who you looking at? Maybe you're looking at the daughter. We'll get into the epidemic of trans kids in Hollywood. First, though, America's fastest growing news podcast, Morning Wire, is now available on video. Start your day with all the news you need in just 15 minutes. Watch on DailyWire Plus, YouTube, and Spotify, or listen wherever you get your podcasts. I also want to tell you about Preborn. Go to preborn.com/Knowles. With Mother's Day just around the corner, I want to share an amazing organization that's making a real difference for mothers in need. That is Preborn. Preborn's network of clinics provides love, support, and hope to pregnant women who are feeling scared, alone, or pressured about their pregnancy decisions. These choices can affect not just their baby's life, their own emotional well-being too. When a woman walks into a preborn clinic, she is welcomed with compassion and offered a free ultrasound so she can see and hear the little life growing inside her, and most of the time, this powerful moment helps her choose life. This Mother's Day, you can help both a mother in crisis and her baby. Just $28 provides one ultrasound, $140 rather covers 5. Every dollar goes directly to supporting these moms and babies. Plus, monthly sponsors receive photos and stories of the lives they've helped save. I personally support this organization and have for years. You should as well. Give what you can. If you want to get involved, it's very easy. Dial pound 250, say keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Knowles. Make a difference this Mother's Day by supporting both mothers and their babies. That's preborn.com/Knowles, KNWLAS. Get involved today and impact generations to come. What's the big change in vaccine policy? What's the big change that the government has been resisting for decades, that it took a radical, fringe, anti-vaxxer like Bobby Kennedy to introduce? The potential change is that all new vaccines must undergo safety testing with placebos. That's it. And the big surprise, for anyone who cares to read beyond the headline here, the big surprise is going to be that we have not already been safety testing the vaccines with placebos from the beginning. How do you not use a placebo to check the safety of a vaccine, or to test the efficacy of a vaccine for that matter? We use placebos in so many other kinds of trials. Why not in this case? Well, what the government says is it would be unethical to safety test the vaccines with placebos, because that would mean that in these trials, we would not give the vaccine to some people. And we know for certain the vaccines are so good that it would just be terrible to not give everyone the vaccine. Hold on. Wait, now you've just undermined the safety trial entirely. That's the most circular logic I think I've ever heard. We know the vaccines are so safe that when we're testing their safety, we're not actually going to use placebos and controls because we already know they're so safe in the first place. So why would we ever need to test their safety? And how do we know that they're safe? Because we said so, not because we undertook rigorous safety analysis. And anyway, shut up and stop asking questions. You stupid sheep, stop asking questions. Take you a shot. Take you a shot. Sorry. Dr. Fauci just sprung out of my throat there, I guess. That was really shocking. Interesting how the top health officials all have novel voices, eccentric, notable voices. Kennedy, before him, Fauci. In any case, this is common sense. And the public health officials who squandered all of their credibility during COVID by lying to us repeatedly, they got the chickens coming home to roost right now. Because for a while, it seemed like they were stuck. They couldn't ever admit that there might be some problem with vaccines, that maybe that some people do get vaccine injured, that actually the government pays people who are vaccine injured. They kind of just try to sweep all of this under the rug. They couldn't admit that their safety experiments, their safety trials rather, did not use placebos, because it would raise all of these questions. So now that Kennedy is introducing totally common sense, reasonable, modest reforms, I think it's going to actually exacerbate the backlash against vaccines, because people are going to say, wait, why haven't you been doing this from the beginning? It's starting to look like the government is hiding something. So we'll see. Kennedy, he didn't run pro-vax, he didn't run anti-vax. He ran pro-science, pro-safety trials, pro-common sense. I guess that's the theme of the whole Trump administration. Meanwhile, Kennedy's former opponent in the Democratic presidential primary, or potential opponent in the Democrat presidential primary, and Trump's actual opponent in the presidential election, Kamala Harris, has re-entered the public stage. She took a little sabbatical after she got destroyed in the election. She is now delivering her first major remarks since the election and since leaving the office of the vice president. What pearls of wisdom does Kamala Harris have for us?
In fact, please allow me, friends, to digress for a moment. Okay. It's kind of dark in here, but I'm asking for a show of hands. Who saw that video from a couple of weeks ago, the one of the elephants at the San Diego Zoo during the earthquake? Google it if you've not seen it. So that scene has been on my mind. Everybody's asking me, what you've been thinking about these days? Well...
There is nothing to fear but fear itself, says Franklin Roosevelt. We shall go on. We shall fight on the beaches and in the streets, says Winston Churchill. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, says Ronald Reagan. And you all see that YouTube video about the elephant? Says the former future president, Kamala Harris, who has not improved one iota since she left office. She is trying to position herself as either the next president after Trump, or at least as governor of California or something. But she has learned nothing. She has not improved. I'm not sure that she can improve. She might have peaked in her rhetorical skills. Did you? I didn't see the YouTube video, did you? I did not. Turning now to slightly more coherent women is a woman who has gone viral because she left America and moved to Africa. She doesn't like how America's racist and sexist and bigoted and terrible and awful. So she made good on the threat that so many leftists make that she's going to leave. And in this case, she's going back to Africa. She's not from Africa. She didn't grow up in Africa, but she's an African American. She's going to Africa. Things must be so much better, right? She had instant regret.
But y'all, I'd rather go back to America and deal with the racism in America before I sit here in Africa and deal with the bullshit bribery, the bullshit fraud, the bullshit scams, the bullshit too expensive, the bullshit not having no snacks, the bullshit not having no food, the bullshit electricity, the bullshit hot water, the bullshit what's that shit called that be coming down?
Bullshit lizards.
The bullshit animals and scorpions outside the house. It's big spiders, it's big lizards, colorful lizards you ain't never seen before, all in the room with you, sleeping with you. All the bullshit people trying to scam you when you go outside thinking you rich, so they trying to get more money off of you. I'm really trying to wrap my head around this. I'm really trying to wrap my head around how are Americans coming to Africa and being happy. Please comment down below, because for me, I'm ready to go. And I always used to say, if it's up to me, it will be. And I'm going to go out to Africa and make it happen. No, I don't want to. I want to take my businesses back to America. I want to open up shop back in America, open up my dentist office, and all the stuff that I was going to do out here in America. Steady electricity. And the only time our electricity get cut off is when we don't pay the bill.
All right. I think you get the picture. She goes on and on with a litany of problems in Africa. The spiders, the lack of snacks, the lack of food generally, just everything. It wasn't what she thought it would be. It's kind of funny, totally predictable, of course, but it's funny. You don't want to feel schadenfreude One hopes for her sake she can make it back to America and have a good life. It's a reminder for all of us, though. You are what you are. You are what you are. I remember when I was a teenager, on my father's side, we descend from the Mayflower, which is a great cigar company, and from Ireland. And on my mother's side, Sicily and Calabria. And I look Italian. I speak Italian. I was raised in a very Italian-American culture. Did grocery shopping as a boy in the Little Italy part of the Bronx. So the first time I was 15 years old, I'm going to Italy with my grandmother. And I said, this is going to be it. I'm going to find home. I am going to feel like I walked back into the comfy home of my ancestors. I'm going to feel like a part of this. I'm going to recognize myself here in this country. And you know what it felt like? It felt like I was visiting a foreign country. There were certain little things I recognized, but I'm not really Italian, you understand. Just like that woman's not really African. I'm an American. I feel actually a little bit more at home than I do in England, than I do in Italy when I go to England. A little bit more, because America comes from England. Even there, though, it's a little bit different. And these days, if I'm not wearing a keffiyeh and saying inshallah to everyone, then I really can't get along in England these days. But you are what you are. And we have this highly ideological version of our identity. Today, if you're a black person, you have more in common with a black African than with a white American. If you're an LGBT person, you have more in common with an LGBT Tibetan, if there are any, than you do with a Republican, conservative, traditionalist American or whatever. And it's just not true. You're an American. You are what you are. You can improve in some ways. You can grow in virtue and holiness. You can tamp down vice and sin. And it's not that you're static, that you can't change, but you're an American. People who do not have a liberal view of politics understand this. This is the classical view of politics, that your identity is inseparable from your community. This is the classical view of politics that says that the fundamental unit is not the individual, but the family. That's the core community that you're born into from the moment of your conception. You are part of that community. The liberal view of politics is that we're individuals, we're limitless, we can be whatever we want, our identities can be abstract, and they have no geographical grounding or traditional or cultural grounding. And it's just not true. You can be black as night, truly ethnically Congolese, as if you walked out of the heart of darkness. But if you're raised in America and then you show up in Congo, you're going to feel like a fish out of water. Identity is about more than the abstractions in your head. And identity is about more even than the color of your skin. It goes a little bit deeper than that. And ironically, this is a lesson that Americans have forgotten. America, which talks about identity ad nauseum, doesn't seem to know the first thing about it. So then they do stupid things like move to Africa and they instantly regret it because they have spiders and they don't have a lot of snacks. You know what we have in America? We have a lot of guns. And when you have guns, you need to check out Stopbox USA. Go to stopboxusa.com, use code Knowles. Owning a handgun can put you in a tough spot. You need it secure, but you need it accessible, and most solutions force you to choose one of the two. Either it's locked away when you need it most, or it's too accessible to curious kids or uninvited guests. With the Stopbox Pro, you finally get both worlds. Your firearm stays safely locked away, but instantly accessible when you need it. 100% mechanical, no batteries to die, no electronics to fail, no keys to lose when you're fumbling in the dark. Just a smart 5-button system that only responds to your unique sequence. The genius part, it's designed for muscle memory. When your heart's racing at 2 a.m. because of strange noises downstairs, it requires no thinking to open. I've been using my Stopbox Pro for a while. It is a marvelous, marvelous device because it allows you to have that confidence of the mechanical action, but it's nice, safe, stored away. I have one in my office right here. Don't tell the guys around the office. I really appreciate that Stopbox manufactures all their products right here in the USA at their dedicated facility. This homegrown approach guarantees exceptional craftsmanship in every unit while creating valuable employment opportunities for American workers. For a limited time only, our listeners get a crazy deal. Not only do you get 10% off your whole order when you use code Knowles at stopboxusa.com, they're also doing a buy one, get one free sale for their Stopbox Pro. 10% off and a free Stopbox Pro when you use code Knowles at stopboxusa.com. Discover a better way to balance security and readiness with Stopbox. Speaking of people complaining, another clip has gone viral of Starbucks employees reacting to a new dress code policy. Starbucks announced a dress code policy a couple of weeks ago. Employees will now be required to wear a solid black shirt and khaki, black, or blue jean bottoms. So you can wear basically any trousers you want, but you got to wear a black shirt. And it can be almost any kind of black shirt you want. It could be short sleeve, it could be long sleeve, it can have a collar on it, it can not have a collar on it. Don't forget, when you're working at Starbucks, you wear a green apron, so most of your shirt is covered up anyway. All they're really saying is you have to wear some kind of pants, and the shirt that's already mostly concealed by your apron needs to be black. So it's a little more uniform. And in part, they say that they're updating the dress code so that they can deliver a more consistent coffeehouse experience, bring simpler guidance to partners, and allow those green aprons to pop a little bit more. Okay. That was too much for a handful of frivolous and decadent Starbucks employees.
Something that Starbucks loves to do is allow partners to be themselves or whatever that PR that they want to push. I don't understand how that's in good faith of letting us express ourselves.
This is not a legal action.
This is not a legal action.
Unilaterally deciding what the dress code
Starbucks
is going
can't
to
have
be,
a dress code.
And then creating this so-called feedback session where the dress code's already created and we're just...
It's not legal. It's not legal for a coffee house to have a uniform.
And still accept it.
Is it now? I don't know if this guy graduated from Harvard Law. Maybe he did. Maybe that explains it. So first of all, one of my most contrarian right-wing opinions, I think Starbucks is one of the greatest corporations in the country. I love Starbucks. Starbucks, as my friend Alan Estrin pointed out, Starbucks created public bathrooms in every city on earth. Before Starbucks existed and you wanted to use a bathroom in a city, you'd have to pretend to be going to a restaurant. It was very awkward. You kind of slipped through to the back. Starbucks just made it so easy. Starbucks, the coffee tastes good. I know some people don't like it. It's good. It's strong. It's good. It's easy. Most Starbucks employees are great. I am one of the few very pro-Starbucks conservatives. And that's not true. Many conservatives are pro-Starbucks. I'm one of the few who will admit it. And it's good. This policy is good. You want uniformity. These malcontent employees are proving the point for the policy because I don't want to look at a bunch of weird stuff when I go into Starbucks. The purpose of business is to serve the customer. It's not about the employees. The audacity of these people to say, we Starbucks partners. You're not a partner, you're an employee, and you should be grateful to your employers for giving you a relatively great job. Starbucks famously is a really good job. As far as working retail and fast food, it's actually apparently a really nice job. But it's not about you. The business is not about making the employee feel really nice. The business is about serving the customer. And so basic stuff, dress kind of normally, that seems totally reasonable to me. But there's a deeper point, actually, which the libs don't understand. What they're complaining about here is that they say, my individuality will not shine through if I'm not allowed to wear bizarre, distracting clothing and, strip down naked in the store or whatever they want to do. Having to wear a black t-shirt and pants, that's too much. You're suppressing my individuality. Au contraire, mon frère, or my sister, or I can't, it's hard to tell the gender. Uniforms allow your individuality to flourish. Just as limitations on a poem, rhyme and meter, for instance, allow the poet to better express his creativity. Just as limits give form and shape to things, so too, a uniform paradoxically allows you to become more fully yourself. Because the t-shirt you wear is pretty superficial. The pants or shorts you wear or don't wear, it's kind of superficial. That's not what you're about. That doesn't even go skin deep. It's above your skin. You're a rational creature. If you want to express your individuality fully, that's going to come from your rational nature. It's not going to come from your stupid t-shirt. This is true in churches. This is why people are returning to the high liturgies, I think. Because the high liturgies, on the one hand, seem like smells and bells and distractions. Not really. What it does is by removing the personality of the preacher or the music director or whoever, it allows the real star of the liturgy, God, Christ, the gospel, the holy sacrifice of the Mass, to be the star of the show. Okay, so I don't go to church to hear some guy to give his personality. I don't go to church so that I can have some choir director, some really miserable and longing, aching musician, express her individuality. I go there for the Mass. The star of the show can come out with some uniformity. And for these Starbucks employees, the way that they can star in their show is serve the customers well and with their personality in the confines of a uniform, in the confines of the business, in the confines of serving the customer. The irony is the people who just dress normally and behave normally are much more interesting people 100 out of 100 times than the people who insist on making a big show of their clothing or whatever. The people who, in an effort to be nonconformist, are the most bland and tediously conformist of anyone. God, I can't. I'm very excited. That's great. And if a handful of malcontent Starbucks employees want to quit, that's fine. I'll enjoy all the other great Starbucks employees that I see. Now, speaking of people of dubious gender, Robert De Niro's son has just come out as trans, and this would appear to be a trend in Hollywood. Do you want more of the Michael Knowles Show and the Daily Wire? Then it's time to become a Daily Wire Plus member. Get exclusive access to my show, ad-free streaming, and early access to our biggest releases. Watch high-quality films and documentaries made by filmmakers who actually care about truth and storytelling. Join a community that shares your values, not one that's trying to cancel Western civilization. Watch anywhere, anytime on desktop and the Daily Wire Plus app for mobile and TV. Join today at dailywire.com/subscribe. My favorite comment yesterday comes from Leif Erikson, a man who claims to have discovered the Americas before Christopher Columbus. And I like Iceland, but we'll get into the historical Leif Erikson maybe some other time. The commenter, Leif, says, I am not sure if Michelle Obama is a man or a woman, but I would say that it's fair to assume that she was referring to the interviewee when she said, as a black man. She says, it makes me feel so good as a black man. It warms my heart as a black man that you're raising your kid trans. And that's true. I don't think she was confessing to Goulions in that expression. But what is really clear from that interview is that Michelle Obama, a graduate of Princeton, does not know how the English language works. That's a greater indictment. Now, on that very point, then stop it. That's selfish and wrong and stupid and evil. So cut it out. Now, speaking of support for things, we talked yesterday on the show about how Trump has a mineral deal in Ukraine. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, just announced this, that there's a new deal. Trump tried to bring an end to that war. Russia and Ukraine didn't want to play ball, and Russia actually started sending missiles into Kiev, really accelerating as Trump was trying to bring peace, so much so that Trump tweeted, I said, Vladimir, stop it. What are you doing? 5,000 soldiers are dying a week. But they didn't want to play ball. They wanted to push Trump around. So, okay, Trump just struck a mineral deal in Ukraine. And Russia is furious about this. Medvedev, who is a top Russian official, was nominally the president for a while. He and Putin switched places, but Putin's always been the power for the past 20 years. Medvedev, though, a right-hand man to Putin, furious about this. According to reporting from Reuters, he says this deal, it's actually really bad for Ukraine, too, because he's forcing Ukraine to pay for U.S. aid. And the Trump has broken the Kiev regime to the point where they'll have to pay for U.S. aid with mineral resources. Now they'll have to pay for military supplies for the national wealth of their disappearing country. We're not mad about this at all. Now they're pretty upset, I think. And Ukraine should be upset too, in as much as Ukraine has not accepted Trump's brokered peace deal. The Ukraine might be a little upset too, because they do need to pay up a little bit. We're not just going to cut them a blank check and allow them to drag us into a regional and potentially global war. But Putin, I think, is a real loser here, because this is ensuring continued, advantageous, incentivized American support for Ukraine. And this is what Putin gets for jerking Trump around. Had Putin said, I'll take the peace deal, Trump. I'll do what you want to do. I'll take some concessions, and then we can drag Zelensky along and we'll have a peace deal. Then Trump wouldn't need this mineral deal. But Putin thought he was going to push Trump around and there weren't going to be consequences. And more to it, I think Putin made the mistake of thinking that Trump is ideologically motivated, or at least is susceptible to the ideological motivations of his base. The Trump base, and I'm a member of the Trump base, is a little bit split on Ukraine. Some want to keep supporting Ukraine. Some hate Ukraine or don't care about Ukraine at all. Some are even sympathetic to the Russian claims. So it's a mixed bag here. And I think Putin thought by pushing on the more pro-Russian or at least anti-Ukraine part of Trump's base, they could get Trump to go along. But Trump doesn't really play that way. Trump is not particularly ideological. Trump makes deals. And Trump pushes people around when people try to push Trump around. And Putin, he thought he was being real slick and real cool. And he thought that he could get away with sending those missiles into Kiev and blowing up the peace process. So you know what Trump's going to do? Trump's going to get a nice mineral deal out of Ukraine. He's going to get some nice money for the United States. If Russia doesn't want to play ball, if Russia believes, as Tolstoy wrote in War and Peace, that Europe will never be a sincere ally of Russia, that you really can't have a getting along between the West and Russia, okay, that's fine. Well, now we got an incentive to continue to defend Ukraine, and Putin just wasted a couple missiles shooting them at Kiev, because now no more Mr. Nice Guy. There are partisans on both sides of this war making ideological claims for Ukraine. The greatest democracy ever. We have to stand with the great democracy of corrupt Ukrainian oligarchs. Give me a break. And there are some people saying, well, actually, Russia really has a point because Ukraine is sometimes part of its historic land. And actually, Putin is kind of based and right wing and Ukraine is kind of liberal. And yeah, whatever. Trump doesn't care about that either. Trump cares about hard interests. Trump cares about the American. He's not pro-Ukraine. He's not pro-Russia. He's pro-America. And he's pro-American in hard interests. Show me the money, honey. Give me the minerals. And if you're going to play ball with Trump, great. Maybe he can work out a deal with anyone. He can work out a deal with Kim Jong-un. But if you're not going to play ball, all right. Keep getting your young men slaughtered, Vladimir Putin. Fine by me. They're not going to work. This is a very different ball game than we saw in the previous administrations, Democrat and Republican. Now, on national security, one story I really do have to get to. Trump has just ousted his national security advisor, Mike Waltz. He's ousted him in a smart and delicate way. Sometimes Trump gets attacked for being mean, firing people by tweet, that sort of thing. In this way, he was very delicate with Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz, according to reports, was the one responsible for adding Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor of The Atlantic, to a group chat with Pete Hegseth and with J.D. Vance talking about Houthi missile strikes. I mean, a huge error of judgment. Ultimately, not all that consequential. The strikes went off just fine, but not a good look. And the media tried to get Hegseth because all they want to do is get rid of Hegseth. But Hegseth really had very little to do with it. So at the time we said, okay, we'll see if anyone's going to get fired. If anyone was going to be fired, it was going to be Mike Waltz. But Trump didn't do it right immediately. He didn't give the frothing dogs of the media and the left what they wanted. He waited a little bit. Now he's swapping him out. Reportedly, Waltz lost the confidence of top administration officials. And Trump is going to put him up for UN ambassador, because he pulled at least Stefanik out from the UN ambassador nomination because he needs at least Stefanik in Congress. So he's just kind of moving people around. Nothing too harsh here. What does this mean for U.S. policy, grand strategy, geopolitics? Waltz was considered to be on the more hawkish, even some would call him a neocon side of foreign policy. The admin has lots of rivals. It's got free traders. It's got protectionists. It's got war hawks. It's got isolationists and doves. This would be a win for the dovish side of the administration. For now, it depends on who they put in to replace him. That remains to be seen. Now, finally, we get to the mailbag. My favorite part of the week. Our mailbag sponsored by Pure Talk. Switch to Pure Talk at puretalk.com/Knowles today. Get a year of DailyWire Plus for free with a qualifying plan. Take it away.
Hi, Michael. I was looking for your insight in a recent family situation. My dad likes to collect things, which takes up space in his and my mom's house. She has complained for years about this, but my dad has been resistant to selling. Over a year ago, my mother asked my older brother to sell some of my dad's collections behind his back, and she would split the money with him, and told him not to tell my dad. A couple months later, my older brother told me and my younger brother about this arrangement. We told him we thought it was shady. He pushed back, saying Mom told him not to tell, but eventually agreed to come clean. About a year later, the collection came up when I was with my mom and dad, and I realized my brother never told him, so I filled him in. This has caused somewhat of a divide in our family over who was right and who was in the wrong. Is what I did by bringing the situation to light the right thing to do, or should I have listened to my mom and not told my dad and avoided the whole conflict?
You should not have listened to your mother in this case. You might have acted a little differently, but your heart was in the right place. Your mother's behavior was egregious here. I mean, there's not a hint of irony in that's really awful. You should not have a parent saying to the kids, "Hey, don't tell your mother or don't tell your father about this. I'm gonna bring you, kid, into a little secret pact with me to encourage you to disrespect your other parent." In this case, the father is supposed to be the head of the household. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell a possession that your father loves against his will, without his knowledge. Really, really disgusting behavior that legitimately can threaten a marriage. So really, really bad stuff. Sorry, not to talk smack about your mom, but you brought it up, and that's really bad. What I would have done, though, because you have to honor your mother and your father, is I probably would have gone to your mother first. I wouldn't have gone to your brother. I would have gone to your mother. Said, "Hey, I heard you doing this. This is bad. Don't do this. You're putting us in a horrible position. It's wrong of you to do this." You say this respectfully. And I don't want to have to go rat and tell dad, but I have to honor him too. And if he keeps selling his stuff that he loves behind his back, I got to do it. Do the right thing, Mom, and honor your husband and respect your husband, and don't behave this way, respectfully. That's what I would do. Because this stuff, I'm not exaggerating. Who cares what the little trinket is or whatever that she's selling? It's the principle that she's forming an alliance with her kids against the father, the head of the household, totally inverting and perverting the family structure. Marriages have broken up for less, okay? That's what I would talk to the mother about this. Okay, next one.
Dear Michael, I'm a stay-at-home mom of 3 kids, 4, 2, and 6 months, up in America's Evil Top Hat. A few weeks ago, my 4-year-old pulled a book off the shelf at the local library and was looking at the pictures. I didn't see the title and was looking for books to take home, and did a double take when I saw her looking at a drag queen and took the book away. Turns out the book is called The Bare Naked Book by Kathy Stinson. I flipped a few pages, and there was a page on breasts with images of various women, including some with mastectomy scars, and another page on male genitals. By God's providence, my child was not exposed to nudity. I was so angry and shocked, we immediately left. How do I respond to my library? I'd like to write something, but don't know what to say. While I think this book shouldn't be anywhere near kids at all, should I suggest it goes to a different section? My child should be able to look at any book in the kids section without supervision. I'd love your advice on what I should do. Thank you.
What I would first be tempted to do, and might do if my will got away from my reason for a second, is I would destroy it or throw it in the garbage, because that has no business. I might burn it, actually. I might burn it in front of everyone in the town square. But that's not the reasonable thing to do. That's not the right thing to do. It's not your property. You don't have a right to do that. So what I would probably do, being of Italian distraction, always trying to find a little workaround here, I would probably just hide the book in the library underneath a shelf or something, or underneath a desk, and so no one should be exposed to that obscenity and that degeneracy. But I wouldn't steal it or destroy it. That would be my little Sicilian via media. Okay. Now, what you might do if you want to write a letter, for instance, I would make it a public thing. I mean, that is disgusting stuff. So that's where I might turn to TikTok and say, look, this is the library. The public library is a public institution. It's a political institution. Citizens fund it. Citizens have a right to set some boundaries around it. And if you're putting weird in the kids section, you shouldn't have in the adult section in a library, but certainly in the kids section, you got to get that out of there. And so I would make a stink, and I would get people fired, and I would get state senators involved, and I would make it political, because it's the public library. It's a political issue, and you have a right as a citizen to do that. Now, my guest, who's coming on right now, knows a little bit about books. He's written about 750 of them. He also predates libraries. I think he remembers the construction of the library at Alexandria. That would, of course, be Daily Wire's millennial correspondent, Andrew Klavan. Drew.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, it's good to see you. That's the only way I can get to see you.
I know. I keep waiting. I have cigars piling up in my humidor, because ever since you stopped your weekly sojourns to Nashville, I have very few people to steal cigars from me. So now I have a surplus. But you've been working. You have a
And
new
I
book.
actually like your cigars. I do. I have a book. I have an excellent, excellent book. Yes.
I'm also really grateful that you wrote this book because this is the first time receiving the copy because it's a nonfiction book. So I, as a Philistine, can read it.
Can finish it. I know.
That's right. The Kingdom of Cain, Finding God in the Literature of Darkness. For those who don't know, Drew managed to turn a book about John Keats and Christ into a bestseller, which I like a top bestseller. I didn't know any. Most people today don't even know who John Keats is. Some might not know who Christ is. But this is in the same vein, is it not?
Yeah, but this is dealing with more popular entertainment. This has things about, it's really about murders. It's about famous murders in history that a lot of people have forgotten about. So that they might learn something there. But they inspired movie after movie after movie, TV shows, novels. So, Ed Gein, who inspired Psycho, Silence of the Lambs, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which in turn inspired the entire slasher genre. The Leopold and Loeb. I can't believe people. This is 1920s, Leopold and Loeb. So I was at the trial, and these are two guys who had read Nietzsche and decided they were supermen. They were young men, lovers. They decided they were supermen, so they were going to commit the perfect murder, and essentially reenacted Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and actually went and killed some little kid. And like the supermen they were picked up by the Chicago cops in about a week and carted off to prison. And this has inspired movie after movie after movie. You can probably see, if you go through the course of maybe 3 years of movies and crime TV shows, you will see a story about two people who come together and decide to commit the perfect crime, either for the thrill of it or because they think that they're better than everybody else. And basically what I'm showing people, I don't know about you, but I can't watch modern Christian storytelling, movies and things like that. I mean, it's just so...
You mean because of how bad they are?
Because of how bad they
are. How just
They're
absolutely insufferable and sappy and yeah.
This is the religion that inspired the greatest art literally ever, right? So you got Bach, you got Michelangelo, you got Shakespeare. I believe Shakespeare was a Catholic myself, and I think it's just imbued in his work. And now, you get there, God is not dead, number 5. This time he's really not dead, and all this stuff. So I just would like to show people that even the darkest literature, the darkest stories that is not suitable for family entertainment can lead the way to actually understanding how God may be able to make something beautiful out of the evil of the world, that artists are sort of imitators of God, they're creators, they want to continue the creation. And so I just wanted to show you how these things fed into the imagination and how artists then took these horrible murders and turned them into these illuminating, absolutely Christ-led books. Even the artists who didn't want them to be Christ-led, they were so honest in what they were depicting that it actually shows you something about where our conscience as a collective, where our collective conscience was in relation to God. So, I mean, you know that one of the first things that turned me in the direction of faith was reading Crime and Punishment when I was 19. So this is a story about an axe murderer, and it convinced me that there was no such thing as relative morality, that morality was an absolutely objective thing. And I thought, if I went into a Christian bookstore and said, could you have that book about the axe murderer who's redeemed by a prostitute? They I'm sorry, sir, would you leave the room?
It's down the street. That's at the.
And so I just wanted to study the way that art transforms the darkness of life into something illuminating and even uplifting when it's done by great artists.
Do you think that book? Were you listening to the mailbag that I had just now?
I was. Yes.
Do you think that the book in the library with all the genitals in the kids section, do you think that rises to the level of great art?
Well, I actually found a similar book in the Library of Alexandria, which solves the problem of how it burned down. I think
were they able to be quite so graphic on the vellum and the stone tablets?
They chiseled. They were good chiselers. Those guys. They knew exactly what they were doing. I think that this is so shameful. I hate to say it, but I actually agreed with you that she should make a serious fuss about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that, it's so interesting that they keep doing this to kids. And then when you come out and read what they're putting in schools out loud, they tell you to stop reading it out loud because it's just too filthy, So these are genuine perverts. And,
I love they always say, well, you're just trying to ban books. and you're a Philistine. And in practice, they're even good, normal people who say, yeah, we shouldn't ban books, whatever. But then you have to tell them like, hey, sure, right, whatever. Read the book. Take a look at the photographic, obscene in the 4-year-old section of the library or in the kindergarten part of the school library. And then you still agree we should have that? Because now you're not a defender of free speech. Now you are a child abusing pervert. Are you kidding me?
Well, you know what? I think it can be banned. I think I would shut down every site on the internet, except I don't know what they do for money at this point. But like, I think that,
I know. Isn't it all free? Maybe not. They have OnlyFans now where I don't know. That seems like the biggest scam of all. If there's one thing that the internet provides, it's pictures of naked ladies. And now people are even paying for it. So I don't know. They make money somehow. They make a lot of money.
It's interesting to me that the same people who wanted to investigate Catholics who went to Latin Mass don't think that banning is violating the First Amendment. It's the same people,
Yeah.
So,
Drew, I have more mailbag that I want you to weigh in on. In fact, I want to hear your thoughts. There was a question at the top of the voicemail bag about this mother who made a deal with her kids to undermine the father's authority and sell us. I want to get your thoughts on that, because you all, not only do you predate libraries, I think you were born before marriage existed. So
yes, before mothers existed. I was just appeared. I was like,
we're going to get to all of that right now, and we're going to get to Fake Headline Friday that Drew's going to help me out on. But
cool.
You've got to go. You hoi polloi. You need to go to dailywire.com using code Knowles, and you'll get 2 months free or something like that. I don't know. You got to lie. Go even if you had to pay for an extra 2 months, you should go subscribe. We have the Membrum Segmentum coming up right now.